morning and welcome. Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason wrapping up July. I hope you had a fantastic weekend. I know here in the Valley of the Sun, the big heat wave, I think today is the day it finally ends. I don't think we're going to get up to 110 degrees. So that's a great day. It was like 10 degrees cooler at about 5 o'clock this morning. So I think the worst of it is over. It wasn't that bad. Listen, don't believe everything you see in the media about what they're trying to say. Hey, it's hot here in the summer. There you go. That's all you need to know. 800-951-0592 is our toll-free number. Of course, allamericangold.com is our website. It is Monday. This is where we have my son Joey with us from Northwestern Mutual. Because listen, having gold and silver isn't enough, right? You gotta have those investments, the 401ks, the IRAs. How do you keep the majority of it? How do you not lose when the market is way down? How do you do better when the markets are up? And more importantly, when you get ready to retire, how do you keep most of it without giving it to Uncle Sam? That's where Joey comes in. And today he wanted to focus in on people, the need to be proactive. And it's the same thing when you're buying gold and silver. Jason and I last week were saying, this is what you want to be buying. Right? Of course, now gold's been rallying pretty big here the last week or so. But you want to be proactive. You don't want to be reactive, and you don't want to wait for the emergency to come and then call. Right? You don't want to wait till your portfolio's down 20 or 30% before you call. You want to be proactive instead of reactive. And Joey, when it comes to money, it seems like that's the hardest thing for the every day, the regular guy, the regular gal on the street. It's the hardest thing for us to do is to be proactive. Most of the time, most of us are reactive.
Yeah, 100%. And that's been a big focus with the clients and the people we're speaking with today is just preaching us being proactive rather than reactive and everything. And it's hard. Life is busy, and 99% of people are reactive to the situations they're in. But if we can put people in a space where we can educate them and help them put things into place where they're more proactive with everything, we put them in a way better spot than they were. And also we just create a lot of comfortability. A lot of times when you talk about finance and putting things together, building out a plan, consolidating debt, making sure we're putting all of our accounts into one spot, it can get overwhelming for the majority of Americans, and especially your average everyday person. Now, you go to work 40 hours a week, you take care of the kids, you say hi to the wife, you go on a dinner date. The last thing that people have time for, make the time for, is being proactive in the one area of their life that allows them to live the life they want. And that's where we come in. You talk about insurance planning. You talk about investing in accounts. You talk about planning for retirement. All of that stuff is so much easier and simpler when we're just proactive about it. And that's the value add that we bring to the table when talking with clients, is that we're helping them and holding them accountable to get things done. And they give us the workload, and we do it for them. We save people so much time, but I think the biggest thing is, hey, now you can go to bed at night every day and knowing I've got someone I can trust. I've got a whole team behind me, and I don't have to worry about my finances because they're being proactive about it for me. Rather than, I don't know what to do with my accounts, I'm just going to let it sit there. I don't know what my 401k is doing. I have no idea how I'm tracking for retirement, right? All these things, we will solve for those problems and be proactive every step of the way for all of our clients so that you don't have to do it yourself.
Yeah, and that's the best part is once you become a client, that's what separates you guys. One of the big things that separates you from everybody else is you'll be the proactive person for these people, right? We know, we'll take the Federal Reserve, right? The rate hike cycle is slowing, right? It's getting ready to come to an end. Everybody's kind of anticipating what kind of landing it's going to be. But by being proactive, right, you can do things like, hey, you're playing defense, but at the same time, we're still moving the ball on offense because we're proactive to what the markets are doing, or vice versa. When things are changing, you're there to make those changes happen for people versus them sitting there, well, gosh, I don't know what's going to happen, right? And consequently, a lot of times they don't do anything, and then the disaster comes, and then it's too late.
Exactly. And the whole thing we're trying to do here is make sure we're never too late and just take that tension away from people. You know, and you talk about all these different life changes, buying a home, having kids, going to retire, taking care of the grandkids, paying for children's education, paying down debt. There's so much more we're helping people put a plan for rather than just accumulating our wealth and making sure we're preserving it. You know, these are things that we don't necessarily get paid on. Hey, Joe, how do I save money to put a down payment on a mortgage? I know interest rates are 7%, but what's a good way for me to save up for that? Or, Joe, I've got these student debts. We have a personal loan. We've got a mortgage. We have car debt. Well, what's the best way to tackle these debts? We have credit card debt. Well, we'll help you put a plan in place to do that as well. But we're planning for big life events, whether it's just retirement or growing wealth. We're going to make sure we part of your goals and what you want to achieve at the end of the day.
We'll be back with more with Joey right after this. (800-951-0592). Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour here on this Monday. We have Joey with us and talking about being proactive versus reactive. And you brought up a great point. Hey, listen, I get it. There's people out there that are like, man, I'm not in a position. I want to call Joey, but I'm just not in a position. I've got credit card debt, student loan debt, this debt, that debt, and one of the services you guys provide is you help people manage through that. Get a plan in place where, hey, let's get on a path to where people can get there. That's one of the services, and that's something. It's free. You don't. That's a nothing other than, hey, we have these services. We have a lot of things. Student loan debt. You guys have channels there where a lot of people can get that debt reduced simply by calling the right people out there, and you can help people do that. Another thing too. That's kind of a growing thing is all of a sudden the grandparents are having to raise the grandkids, right? The mom or dad, the son or the daughter, they're on drugs or whatever it may be, and these were things they didn't plan for. You help people do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, we help in every aspect that involves finances and money. You know, our everyday lives, like it or not, includes finances. It includes money to do the things we want to do, to have that freedom that we get here by living in America. And part of our job as a planner is not to do things that get us paid, but to do things that put you in a better spot. We help you pay down debt. Well, guess what? Once that debt's paid down, we can help you invest and grow your wealth. Right? We help people plan for kids, make sure we plan for education. Then we talk about student debt. Well, we have a connection where we introduce them to someone from another company that helps them consolidate that and pay that down as well, and hopefully shop around for lower interest rates. Right? We do so many things for people, and the average American feels that, I don't have wealth to do planning. Well, you don't need $1 million. You don't need $100,000. To do financial planning, you just need to have an income. When you have an income, we can help you figure out a budget. We figure out a budget, we find out, hey, what can you realistically save? And depending on what you have going on, maybe what we save for the first 2 years is spending down debt. You're not paying us money to help you spend down debt because we haven't really done anything together besides get our input and advice. And then maybe you finish paying down debt. Now we look, okay, what do we do to grow our wealth? Maybe $100 a month or $200 a month, or some people it's $10,000 a month. It doesn't matter where you're at in terms of your financial income or anything like that. All that matters is that we can save X amount of dollars per month or per year. And from there, that's where we come in to help you best figure out what should we expose ourselves to and what should we target based on what it is you want to achieve in your life. And to be honest with you, I could talk to 3 people that are both 30 years old and they all each make $100,000. I can guarantee that every one of our plans will be different for all 3 of them because they're all probably going to be in a different life stage. One may be married, one may be not. One may be buying a house, one may already own a house. One may want to plan for taking a big trip, big vacations every year. It really just going to depend on what you have going on financially, but most importantly, what matters to you when we talk about building a plan? Like, what do you want to achieve from this? Where do you want to see yourself in 3 years and 5 years and then 10 years? And that's where we come in. It's kind of like being a financial therapist. Figure out the pain points, figure out what you're struggling with, and then overall just educate you. You know, I tell everyone I talk to, I've got 3 pillars when it comes to running my practice. First one's education, making sure everything you have access to. Second one is transparency. You know exactly how I'm getting paid. We're letting you know the ins, outs, the pros and cons of everything. And the last one, which is most important and most vital to any relationship, is communication. We're communicating with you at least twice a year. Some people want us to reach out every quarter or every month, and that's something we decide when we decide to move forward and proceed with things. And the only thing my team and I ask in return is that you're transparent with us and you give us proper communication so we can give you the service that you deserve and, quite frankly, that I see most Americans not getting. If you want to be proactive, you want to stop working at night, let's have a conversation and figure things out.
That's the thing. I think you hit it right on the head. Is number one, most people don't think. Well, I'm not. I don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars, so I probably wasting a financial planner's time. I don't want to. I'm not set up for that. I'm just a small guy, and the realities are that's where the majority of people are. But the small guys that have someone like you in their corner, by the time they get ready to retire, they're no longer small, right? They're being set up, and I think that's kind of the message you're sending today.
Yeah, that's exactly the message. It's not important of how much you start with. It's just important that you start. Put your left foot in front of your right and just keep marching on. I know times are tough, budget's tough, and when the budget is tough, life is tough, and you feel overwhelmed, you feel too busy, and you make excuses. You're not wasting our time because this is what we do. I chose for a living to sit down and talk to thousands of people a year. And quite frankly, some of my favorite clients are the ones that don't make that much money because we help them out so much. Yes, we provide a ton of value to people with a ton of assets, most certainly. But for people just starting out, they have no financial literacy background. They think they don't have enough money. Man, we're really showing them how you can get on the right foot early on and just make sure by the time we do retire or the time we have a big goal coming up that we've got money set aside for it. And we don't have to worry at night, and I think that's just the biggest ad you get from any planner is that we're going to be there for you. There's someone in your corner that you can rely on, and ultimately build out a long relationship. And at the end of the day, I hope that it's not just Joey, your financial planner, but it's Joey, someone that's your friend. Because that's what we care about. We're not a transactional-based team. We're all about the relationship and just making sure we're reaching out to everyone and giving them the opportunity to work with someone and give them that service that everyone deserves to have. It's just, hey, it takes time. You got to pick up the phone and make that call. And we got to have that conversation. You got to be willing to put some effort in and get us back some items of information so we can put you in that spot and just get an idea of exactly where you're at. And then from there, 5 years from now, it'd be crazy to see the growth. I've already seen it 3 years in. My clients from year 1 to year 3, the growth has been tremendous. You know why? Because we're getting them to think about their future, which most planners, most wealth management guys don't get people to do. And if you want that conversation, you want someone that's going to help you grow and be there for you, I ask that you reach out to me. My personal cell, 602-909-9048. Again, that is 602-909-9048. Let's get the ball rolling. Let's ease your tensions, and let's make sure that we're getting you a plan in place so that we're better than we were yesterday.
There you have it. That's my son Joey from Northwestern Mutual. Get proactive. Reach out to him. It doesn't matter where you're at. You may not be ready. You may be, man, I gotta get a handle on this debt. I'm not ready to call Joey. Yeah, you are, because he's going to help you do that. He's going to get you on that plan. You make sure you're exploring all of your options, or maybe you're the guy that's like, well, I've got a little bit, but it's not a big amount. Hey, those are the perfect ones, because you guys will come up with a plan to get to that level. 602-909-9048. But you got to be proactive. Joey, thank you for taking your time out today, and I'm sure we'll talk again next week.
Yeah, we'll talk again next week. Thanks for having me, and everyone have a great Monday and enjoy the week.
There you have it, Jason. And we got a lot of things to talk about. Gold and silver continuing to rally. Most people trying to speculate as to what is coming next. We had last week we had Pac West get bought out. Right, that was one of the troubled banks. And then over the weekend we had a bank failure in Kansas, the FDIC taking over banks. And Jason, this is what we've said. Janet Yellen at least has been pretty honest about it. She doesn't, the way she says it is a little different. Oh, well, there's going to be consolidation. Jason, the banking industry is undergoing another one of these seismic shifts. And we'll talk about that. Also, we had a major bankruptcy in the freight industry. Yellow Freight. This isn't even a reorganization, Jason. They're simply saying, we're going out of business. We're closing the door. Tens of thousands of people being laid off overnight.
Yeah, we're going to start seeing a lot more of this as time goes on, I think, for sure. And Joe, we'll talk about the banking stuff. It's, who's going to pay for these consolidations? Because I don't think it's as easy as just, hey, we'll just take you over, little bank, and we'll take care of your customers. I get the feeling there's some money moving around that we don't know about, because maybe we don't see 700 bank failures in the next 4 or 5 years. Maybe we just see a handful of them, and the rest of them are so-called, takeovers or mergers, right? And, it keeps everybody nice and calm, right, when all these little banks just get swallowed up by bigger fish, and we end up with less and less banks. So I think that's the plan after what happened in March. I think people got spooked, and then of course we watched that video from the FDIC. They know everybody should be spooked, but they're not. They said we got to keep everyone happy, and a merger just sounds better than a closure, doesn't it?
Yeah, so we had one of each. So we had the merger, Pac West actually getting bought by a much smaller bank. And then over the weekend, Heartland Tri-State Bank in Kansas. And this is these small banks. This particular bank, they had 4 branches, right? These are going to be where the majority of the 4,000 banks that we have fit in this category. When you think about it, we've only got 30 banks that have assets, if you will, deposits of more than $100 billion. So, Jason, it's all of these smaller banks now. Heartland in Kansas, the first one to be taken over. And this is something, you don't hear about that on the TV, right? You don't get advanced warning. Remember when Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank, even Pac West, right? That was in the headlines, right? These are bigger banks. Silicon Valley Bank, I want to say, was like, the 16th, 17th largest bank. These little banks, Jason, you'll never hear a word about them. It'll be a Friday. Next thing you know, on Monday, the bank's got a new name on it.
John Rockefeller said several times in his days, competition is a sin. If you're moving towards a global digital cash where there is no fake funny money where you can actually just hold that outside the system. You probably don't want a whole lot of independent banks because not every small bank, Joe, is going to be invested in this bad stuff and it's just going to go under. Some of them will have seen the fallacy of that, and they're going to be just fine. I don't think that the Fed and the bigger banks want those guys around because that's competition. Any business model that shows a different way of going, they need to get rid of that too. So we'll see how much pressure this economic downfall that we're going to be experiencing over a period of months and years. We'll see how many of those really sturdy banks can actually stand up to it, Joe, because the weight of the system can sometimes even stop a small bank that's doing it right.
Yeah, and this was a bank that had $139 million of quote-unquote assets, $130 million of deposits. And again, I think we're going to see this trend play out in 2023 and 2024 and possibly beyond, as again, the interest rate cycle is going to force a lot of these banks out. When we get back, what happened to Yellow Freight? What will that mean? Ceasing all operations. And then J.P. Morgan saying gold prices are heading higher. What? J.P. Morgan? Yeah. We'll be back after the break. (800) 951-0592. Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour. Quick look in at the markets. We've got a mixed bag on Wall Street. The Dow's up 30. The S&P is down a point. The NASDAQ down a point. Now the Dow just went negative, so we'll keep our eye on that. But nothing too bad. The 10-year note right below 4%. Get ready, man. This is crazy things happening. Crude oil up another $1 a barrel, just under $82. Brent crude approaching $86. Unleaded gas futures, right, approaching $3, right? That's like, oh my gosh, higher inflation. Then you have Yellow Freight collapsing. Well, that's bad, right? The freight industry's collapsing, but in a weird way, that's bad, right? That's recessionary, and at the same time, inflationary. I know, it's confusing. We'll get to it. Gold's up a 10 spot, right? Back above 1970, getting ready for another higher high in this trend. Silver up 50 cents here at $25. Don't forget, listen, I think this is going to be a really crazy time, right? We've got the political thing, right? It's elections, whether we like it or not, right? Election season is here. What's going to happen there? The Fed. Listen, guys, I hate to say it, they've screwed it up every time. They've never not prevented a recession. Never. It's never happened. If it had, I'd tell you. Hey, there's a 1 in 10 chance. You got to be ready. Another place, listen, you got to get your gold. You got to have your silver. You got to make sure you got a guy like Joey in your corner protecting all of those things and being proactive. And then, you know what? Check out our friends at Y-Refi. Up to 10.25%. You may say, you know what? I'm just going to take a chunk of what I got. I'm going to wait it out. I don't like what I see over the next year. You want to do 1 year? 6.25. 2 years, 7.25. You want to say, you know what? I'm going to sit out the rest of this term and the whole next presidential term. I want to go 5 years, up to 10.25% return. Fixed. You don't have to worry. Is the Dow up today? How's my 401k? What's it looking like? Oh, no. The Fed screwed it up. It's getting punished. It doesn't matter. It won't change for you. Check them out. InvestYRefi.com. That's the word invest, the letter Y, REFY.com. Or just call them at 888-YREFI24. Remember, you need to have at least $50,000 to work with Y-Refi. You can use an existing IRA. Some of you can use a 401k. But, Jason, this thing with Yellow, it's because they're not what I'll call the typical trucking company. Yellow Freight is the one where, hey, I don't have a whole truckload. Right? When you see the semis, most of these semi companies, you get the whole truck. Right? Yellow was the one where, hey, you're a little guy. Hey, you just need to put a couple pallets on. And this guy needs to put a couple pallets on. And that guy needs to put a couple pallets on. Jason, this could have huge impacts on supply chain. It could have huge impact on cost. Not to mention, tens of thousands of people lost their job.
30,000 people. That's a lot, it's funny when you read statements. See, I'm not a big fan of unions. I know what they're there for, why they're important in the past, but they don't work the way they're supposed to anymore. But when I read comments about this, because I looked it up as soon as Joe said we're going to talk about this, the union granted the company an extra month to make the required payments they needed. Right? Like the union is running the company. Something backwards. When I hear a statement from the Teamsters president, Sean O'Brien, today's news is unfortunate, but not surprising. Yellow has historically proven that it could not manage itself despite billions of dollars of worker concessions and hundreds of millions in bailout funding from the federal government. This is a sad day for workers in the American freight industry. And I'm thinking, that's the answer to freight companies, is making sure there's hundreds of millions of dollars coming from the federal government, and then the workers are making concessions, and this is supposed to make Yellow Freight work? I think there was something very wrong with their model when they're doing concessions and government bailouts.
Yeah, they got $700 million, Jason. $700 million from the federal government. I guess that gets added right to the debt levels. And again, but this is the ramifications of this. We'll see what happens. Is there somebody that can fill the void of Yellow? Like I said, it is unique in that it took the smaller guys. Hey, Yellow's going to show up at my door, and they're going to pick up 3 or 4 pallets, and then they're going to stop at the guy down the street, pick up a couple pallets from him, and then they're going to stop over at this guy a couple of miles away, pick up a couple pallets and a couple pallets. And, Jason, if they're unable to fill that void, you can already tell this is going to be very costly. This could potentially, we'll see if this really all of a sudden starts impacting a lot of other companies that relied on someone like Yellow to keep them in business. Because when you go to the big guy, they're like, oh, you need a truck? No problem. You got to pay for the whole thing. But I don't need the whole thing. Right? Hey, I only need a little bit. Right? That's going to be a problem.
It's not going to affect businesses. It's going to affect small and medium-sized businesses. Yeah. Walmart isn't affected by this. They're going to benefit from this. Any shortages in truck drivers? Well, now they don't have to pay their truck drivers quite as much when this flux of whatever 10 or 15, 20,000 truck drivers hits the market here. And like you said, Joe, small businesses need cheap and responsible local options. When that's gone, they may not have another option at all. This means more layoffs and more businesses closing down. You've made it pretty clear. Things like this are out of all the news you've been putting on the air, Joe, this one's pretty solid, showing exactly what we've been talking about.
And again, this is I think the confusion in the economy. Because when you think about a healthy economy, right, you think about, trucking's big, right? Shipping, right? That things are good. It's the opposite, right? Trucking rates have collapsed. Shipments have collapsed. So that it makes sense that the weaker competitors are going to be the ones that fall first. We'll see. It by itself, it's not, obviously, let's say it's bad news, right? 22,000 Teamsters. So there's 22,000 truckers looking for work, 8,000 other support staff looking for work. And then what are the ancillary effects of the satellites that Yellow serviced? We'll have to wait and see. When we get back, J.P. Morgan making a big gold call. I'll tell you what it is when we return. 855-859-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason. Gold's up 11, 1971. I know what you guys are saying, but Joe, the TV says gold's 2010. CNBC.com, MarketWatch.com, same thing, right? Gold's over 2,000. JP Morgan saying gold's over 2,000. Again, the December contract is what they're watching. It's the most heavily traded contract. You go into 2024, and already gold prices, at least contract-wise, are at record highs. Silver, same thing. I'm telling you, $25. You turn on the TV, they're telling you, hey, it's approaching $25.40. Go into next year, listen, you got silver contracts into next year at $27. This is just letting you know where the pricing is heading into what we feel is a much slower rate hiking cycle. We think a pause is probably in play. It's going to be they don't care about anything but the inflation numbers. I think that's the only number now that really matters to the Fed. So we'll continue to watch how this all plays out. But I've got a great opportunity, $20 gold pieces. Today and today only, $2,195. So you're going to be below $2,200 an ounce. We got gold moving. Prices are going to be up tomorrow. At that level, you're already saving $20 a coin probably by tomorrow. Remember, we talked about gold was here right before the Fed meeting. Remember, I told you, if gold opens here tomorrow, it's going to be $2,250. And then, of course, remember, we got the hot GDP and all that stuff, and gold sold off, of course, and now gold taking it all back. Right, here it comes. Back on a tear again. So buy it. Be proactive. Stealing a word from my son. Be proactive. Buy gold at a lower price here. $20 gold pieces, $2,195. This is the last day for silver half dollars at $225. Obviously, silver on the move here as well. So take advantage of these prices at 800-951-0592. JP Morgan was out saying record high gold prices are coming, and they're going to happen in 2024. They already said, listen, gold's going to be over $2,000. Not a big call, right? Gold's going to be over $2,000 before the end of 2023. Not a big call. My guess, I would not be surprised at all if the record high price happens in 2023. But listen to this. They say the average gold price will be just under $2,200 to the ounce in 2024, which means, Jason, that they expect gold probably to trade at 23 or 24. Cause it's not going to be a straight line, right? Up and down the average price, hey, every day and then average it out. So already JP Morgan saying the average price next year will be several $100 higher than what the price is today.
That being a bank might mean that they're shooting a lower price than where it actually goes. For them to say several $100s, it could be more than that, Joe. Absolutely. You could see, 2,500 gold? You could see 2,800 gold. I mean, next year, that just seems like a whole another world away, doesn't it? Doesn't it seem like we're going to be in a whole other world by next year with the things that are going to happen between the very end of July 2023 and let's just say July of 2024, and then of course the next 6 months after that, it's like moving into another world. So I don't think that's a very conservative call, Joe. I mean, we could easily see gold in the mid 2000s sometime next year. So I think it's just them wanting to actually have a message out there that they're right next year when gold goes up. You gotta make some right calls, don't you?
$20 gold piece is $2,195. JP Morgan saying, well, the average gold price got to be $2,175, right? So you're not going to be buying $20 gold pieces for $2,195 next year. You're just not going to. They did point out that they're saying that they're still not forecasting recession. Believe me, once they do, they're going to up that gold price. I'm just telling you right now. As soon as they think a recession is imminent, the dollar is going to continue to fall. They're going to put pressure on the Fed to stop quantitative tightening. They're going to put pressure on the Fed to lower rates, and the price is going to be even higher than that. To Jason's point, they don't want to come out and tell you gold's going to be $2,400, $2,500. They don't. Well, why did they say $2,175? Well, because we're still not pricing recession, and that's why. So that way we can give you a lower number. Now, we're already telling you it's going to be a record, but we don't have to come out and say 24 or 25 or 2,600 because we're saying that the economy is not going to have a recession, Jason. Pretty simple.
Well, look what gold has done since 2019, 2020 with no recession. We had that crash in 2020 during COVID, but we didn't, look what gold has done and there hasn't been the so-called recession. We've had inflation. So whatever happens next year, Joe, is going to be different than what's happened the last few years, and it's just going to stress the markets out even more and even more and even more. And even if they don't have if we don't get the recession that we're forecasting in the way that we're seeing it, Joe, the markets, like just what you said with this yellow freight company, these things are going to happen, right. And maybe they can paper over it, but is that going to make things better? I don't think so.
Coinbase CEO Bob Armstrong, in an interview with the Financial Times, drops a bombshell about what the SEC told them his company needed to do. I'm going to tell you about it next. All you crypto guys, you might want to stay tuned. We'll be right back. $800-951-0592, $20 Liberties. It's the 1 ounce pre-1933 $20 gold piece. You already know why do we like the pre-33 gold better? Because the laws are better. Simple. It's the most private way to own gold. You can buy it, you can sell it, you can trade it. You don't have to provide your Social Security information. You don't have to worry about 1099s. That's not true. When you want to sell back the vast majority of other gold assets, the tax man's coming for you. Well, let's alleviate that issue. But like I said, that's privacy at its best, and that is real. When you think about privacy, that's probably one of the most important things for the future here. $20 Liberties on sale today, $2,195 per coin. And then the last day here, roll a 20 silver half dollars at $225 at 800-951-0592. And then Bob Armstrong today, in an interview with the Financial Times, said that the SEC in June, now right now the SEC is in a lawsuit with Coinbase, right? So Coinbase, they're a U.S. company. I want to say they sell exchange, if you will, like 250 of, we'll call these digital tokens, okay? According to Armstrong, the SEC in June alleged that it operated as an unregistered exchange and said that they needed to eliminate all of their crypto coins with the exception of Bitcoin. That all other coins, Ethereum and Tether and I don't even know them all, Dogecoin, right? The Elon Musk coin, right? All other of these crypto assets were in violations of securities violations, Jason, and of course, essentially telling the CEO of Coinbase, hey, we're going to put you out of business is what we're going to do. Very interesting that this is where the SEC is coming down on the cryptos, that essentially Bitcoin is the only one that meets the standard, and all these others need to go away. I'm not surprised. I think this is the goal, and I think that's been the goal all along.
Well, and Coinbase isn't, in my mind, a good way to buy a cryptocurrency. Anyways, it's a third-party situation. It's just somebody else getting in the way of you and your money. There are ways of buying Bitcoin and Ethereum and a couple others where you buy it direct and you use it direct. It's different. And Coinbase, of course they're in a position to be ruled and told what to do and what not to do. It's a very slippery place when it comes to cryptocurrencies. You got to be careful what you're doing. You'll lose your money really fast. You got to know what you're doing if you're going to be in that space. It's like investing. There's risk involved. It's not savings like gold and silver. It's investing. You got to be careful what you're doing with Bitcoin, and especially the exchanges.
I'd liken it to this thing, because this happens a lot in America with a lot of things. They set these things up, and then the lawsuits happen, and then the law gets written. We don't know what the law's going to be, right? This is what's happening. This is what's happening right now with the SEC, Coinbase, and others. Who knows? You can wake up one day and all of a sudden a lot of coins are wiped out. We just don't know how the courts are going to ultimately rule when all of this is said and done. So be careful out there. 800-951-0592. Jason and I are coming right back with the Half Empty Cup.